Are we live? Of course we're live. Because
We're
it's Wake
live.
Up and Deliver, episode 10. Good morning, everybody. As always, welcome to Wake Up and Deliver with John and myself. Very excited to start off the day,
The week.
the week. I am sleepy. Um, it's daylight savings, international. Everybody be late for something day on Monday
Oh
following
yeah.
daylight savings.
I went to I went to my sister's for dinner yesterday. I was an hour late. I was like, daylight.
It's funny now, but when drivers were telling me that yesterday, it wasn't as funny. I'm kidding. Nobody was late.
Yeah,
Thankfully, nobody was late.
that's actually true too, though, because I think oh, where is it? Somewhere it's somewhere in Saskatchewan. Don't they
Yes,
either? It's like one part does it and doesn't do it, or they do it at a different time. I always remember that was an issue when we had some activity going out there.
Lloydminster doesn't do it. Everywhere else does
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly. So everyone else's schedule changed, but these guys were like, "No, we're the same." But it's like, yeah, it doesn't work that way though anymore.
Well, I think it's because they sit in Alberta, like they have like Alberta mountain time or whatever, and then they switch back and they stay the same, and then they're only an hour difference versus two. So at times they're at the exact same time, and other times they're not.
Yeah, funny enough, did you know that? I mean, random fact, but like I didn't actually realize this until I was working at Brinks and it was an issue. But that Lloydminster is serviced from it's cut in half.
Right down the middle.
Yeah, so it's like half the city belongs to one province, and like half the city belongs to the other province. Now, when I was in the food industry, it didn't matter because we were like an equal opportunity, like, hey, everyone can eat kind of organization. But when I was in the cash and transit business, it mattered because there are financial rules about where you can source your where the money has to come from. So it's like, imagine like the 7-Eleven on one side could get his money and then the other guy's like waiting for his cash. And I was like, yeah, sorry, see you in a few more hours because it's coming from the other side.
Well, it's time for some coffee, brain food. It's a long one this morning. I apologize.
Oh my God, I see it there now. Wow.
Let's start off. Your reputation isn't just what people say about you. It's the position from which you make every move. Solid beginning. While most people understand the reputation matters, few recognize how it functions as a strategic asset that either unlocks opportunities or leaves you perpetually trapped. The mechanics of the process mirror an unlikely source of wisdom: the game of billiards. A mastered billiards player approaches the table with a dual vision. While amateurs focus solely on pocketing the immediate shot, professionals focus on how the current shot positions them for the next one. This deceptively simple insight that present move determine future options perfectly captures how my reading this morning functions in our interconnected world. Amateurs celebrate the flashy, difficult shot without noticing or caring that they've left the cue ball trapped, making the whole next shot impossible. On the other hand, the professional might pass on an impressive shot entirely if it creates poor position, preferring the modest play that sets up a sequence of future successes. The dynamic perfectly captures the reputational cue ball concept. Waiting for the perfect conditions is how otherwise intelligent people keep themselves stuck.
So like what book did this come from over the weekend? I like that. I do like the quote. I think it's there. Like Orsoy. I think it's good in terms of like the idea and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of truth to that too, right? Like I mean, I think almost that's like the concept of experience. The more experience you get, or the more that you understand something, the more that you're gonna think further down the road, or you're gonna think to what else happens after, because you don't get preoccupied by like the first thing. You know what I mean? And I think in logistics, especially like for a lot of this type of work, that very often comes up, right? Like someone says, "Oh, I need my delivery at 7 a.m." Has to be 7 a.m.
Why?
You don't spend a lot of time necessarily, like once you're experienced, thinking about the 7 a.m. because if you know if you have to make that happen, you know that you can relatively easily.
Yeah.
But it starts to become, what's the impact to everything else, and how does it put me for everything else after that.
It's I equate it to the same as playing chess. People who just start playing chess just take whatever they can right away. They don't realize the depth of the game and understand that I might be able to position myself to be better down the road if I think beyond the next move. So how do we beyond the next move in logistics? I think is a crucial function of how I'm being successful in logistics. How do I position my we had this all the time when I worked in city deliveries. Is you'd send a driver to deliver into Scarborough, and then you'd send them down to Hamilton to pick up. But you had a guy delivering in North York, and then he could have done, sorry, I had another guy delivering in Oakville. He could have done the other load, but because you were so preoccupied of putting a name next to a number, you're just putting it all through. It didn't catch to see the longer picture of how do I connect this and make it more efficient. I need my coffee to catch up to me this morning. Clearly.
It's good. I think your mic is on your other setting again, by the way. But yeah,
is it?
I think
better?
so. Well,
Is
I
that
don't know.
better?
We'll see. It's better at the moment. We'll see what's going on. It's just because I want to make sure everyone can hear you and, like, you know what I mean. They get that wisdom.
I have.
There. So while Matt's doing that, a couple of other things that that we brought up. So first thing, a conversation that I ended up having last week that I was like, I'll check with Matt and Double C, and maybe things have changed. Maybe I'm wrong these days or whatever. I had a conversation a little bit about like service, and when you're talking about relationships and when you're talking about like quality of, and it's interesting because I find that everybody, especially in logistics, right? Like, I mean, I don't think you can go 2 seconds without seeing someone talk about the relationship or whatever over just like a sale or something like that. What boggles my mind, though, is then how quickly people will talk about, oh, it's also great because now that I have, like, the shipper's shipment, or I'm doing, this stuff for them, like I have a portal to log in and like see all of my own stuff. And this came up with some in some 3PL context. It came up in some transportation contexts, and maybe like I'm just super old school, but like, I mean, I don't personally feel that like you should be pushing on these like heavy like relationship, like I take care of you kind of messaging, when then like you have this secondary like message of like, oh, if you want to know anything, log into my app to figure it out yourself. And it was funny
reminded
because,
me.
hey.
You just reminded me of the conversation. Now I'm like, yes, let's talk about it.
Yeah, so it's interesting to me because, quite frankly, like when I was doing when I was responsible for a lot of large scale transportation and distribution, right, like $50 to $100 million a year, never once did I sit around like myself or even wanting for my team to be able to just log into a portal and like do all of the work of figuring out if something was going good or bad. Like I had talked to very large carriers about, automated messaging for certain types of rules or conditions. I talked about like stoplight style systems, like, show me what's red, yellow, and green kind of thing. But like not everything. Again, nobody cares about looking at all the green. Like that's the expectation. So I don't need to see all the details. But, I've talked to them about those types of things, and whether it's automated reports, maybe if it's an open dashboard. But the problem with the problem with the portals, in my opinion, and Matt, you can jump in and think, but the problem that I see here is that it still completely shifts like some type of intentional activity or needed activity on the shipper. And my point with this is that, or your customer, let's even say in a 3PL context, because like Ship Hero as an example is one, but I mean, a lot of them do it, will offer it. And then a lot of their 3PLs just tell their customers, oh, we have a portal. Extensive is the same thing. They all do this kind of thing. But to me, it's like, I don't want to have to look. Like I have a lot of thing in my day as a shipper, as a brand, as a retailer, whatever. I don't want to log in. I'll log in if I have to. I'll deal with something if I have to. But my ideal world is that I never want to have any problems, which means that I don't carve out even 30 seconds to log into your portal, because that 30 seconds is going to go to something else. So anyway, that's my take on that.
Okay. Why do 3PL? It's very much trying to make it more efficient on the 3PL side as well. Like No, it's man hours
Well,
not
okay,
spent
sorry.
going
I
actively doing it, right? So that is part of the reason. The portal,
that I agree.
so it can't be just there's some. Let me back up. It can't just be a be all. Like it can't be like, hey, Mr. Shipper, Mr. Customer, here's my portal. You're never going to hear from me unless there's a problem. If there's a problem, you see it, you let me know. I
Mhm.
think that's horrible. Uh, there has to be a proactive element. You have to be part of the solution within there where you do have automated messages, but an automated message isn't great if you send out a message going, hey, this is going to be 2 hours late, but there's no action being done. When the customer calls you and you got an email going, oh, why is my shipment 2 hours late? You go, what? Oh, I got a message from your system. Oh, let me look into it. That's not
Yeah.
helpful either,
Well,
right?
yeah, no, I think that that's beyond not helpful, but yeah, I
Right. That's
agree.
that's counterintuitive. So there has to be it really has to be part of the whole thing. Dashboards for me in that login is a pulse check is the way I look at it. It does not to
Mhm.
be need to be something that is active. Like if and it could be post delivery as well. So that's where I think a lot of the dashboard and that analysis is good. So when you go in after everything's been delivered, you're like, what were the in and out times? Where are my PODs? Where is this information that I need? When did you guys actually arrive? That is a great tool for you to have. Be able to go in
Okay.
there and
That I agree with you. A dashboard or direct access for information, BI, like just like I actually don't want to wait for you to create something. I don't want to wait for you to email something if I need it.
yes.
So a dashboard with respect to transactions and activity, I 100% agree. It's it's dashboards for tracking and tracing, for issue resolution, or for issue awareness or escalation that I don't agree with. And I honestly think if
So
you're a
I'm
delivery,
gonna
transportation, or 3PL service provider, warehouse provider, and you're doing this, you should stop immediately.
no, I disagree. I'm gonna tell you why. Because you're
Okay.
taking in a position from a large company with dealing with a lot of shipments, right? And when you have an abundance of it, like if you're a mom and pop that have 4 or 5 shipments a week, it is very much you as the 3PL become their TMS in their world, and they utilize your system for a lot of the information that they have. So a customer might be like, "Hey, where's my truck?" They will use your system as a way to show, hey, look, I am advanced. Here's my tracking link that my customer provided, and they can then have that ability to look better. And it's not always just as an abundance of it. Sometimes it might be a person who likes to be very much in detail of everything that is going on. Oh, where's the truck? Is he running on time? And doesn't need to have an interactive communication with the
Yeah,
3PL.
but okay, but I'll okay. So we'll run with this a little bit because my base position would be that any business, once you have the trust and the confidence, right? Like you know what I mean. You've earned the trust and the confidence. Would be way better off spending any of that time that they're essentially doing your job. And I don't mean you, but like, you know, anyone that they're working with in that capacity, selling, doing other customer experience, other product related things, other strategic planning. They would be better off doing anything for their business than essentially doing what they're paying you to do. So that would be my one thing. I don't disagree that maybe at the start, like you know, there's a bit of a sort of that trust building or whatever. That said, though, on the
Trust,
flip
trust, is,
side, I
trust is earned. It takes time.
it does for sure. It
So
it,
you
it
do need
definitely
you do need
does.
mechanisms to show that your trust is valid and you're being transparent. And those are
I Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
information
Finish your
that
thought.
is current and live, right? Like if you go, hey, yeah, the guy's around the corner, which is the famous comment everybody says, and you don't have a tracking link, you have to believe that. But if you have a tracking link, you can validate, okay, he's not around the corner, guys. Come on, he is at
Yeah,
least 4 hours away.
but
And
true.
there's that
But in all
position
fairness,
of
how many
have.
times would you have to do that? Like 2, 3 times tops? Like, you know what I mean? If you're like, "Hey, Mr. Customer, you know what? He's right here. It looks like it's gonna be about 17 minutes. Tell you what, there's always something. Let's call it like in the next 30. You know what I mean? I don't anticipate any issues. If he calls me, if I hear of anything, I'm gonna let you know immediately." You would only have to do that very few amount of times before your customer feels that you're on the ball, right? And then you're right. There's the technology there that if they want to fact check you, there's no problem with that. But I find that too many people are using this because to your point, it is an issue for the house, i.e. the brokerage, i.e. the 3PL warehouse or the delivery partner. That's really where they are trying to offload the activity, the monitoring, the stuff that's being done today. Like that's where the real benefit is. And I think that people have really misunderstood the difference between like the Amazonian and the e-commerce type desires that consumers seem to have versus B2B. And I said this to someone. I said, the reason why someone is avidly watching for that product potentially coming to their house is one, because they're the actual person who paid for it. Like they're the one getting the end benefit. I said, or two, they really want it, that like they're really anticipating it for some reason. So they're very heavily invested in the where's my order type thinking, right? Whereas like for business to business, like if you're bringing something to major retailer aid that they're going to just kind of cycle through their inventory and stock on the shelves, their emotional investment in that is about nothing. Like it's just like with everything else, you know what I mean? They only get emotional about it when it becomes a problem, right? Like they
Okay.
don't. If you're on time, you're on time.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna unpack that a little bit. I agree with you. It can't be a offload. It definitely cannot be like a hands off. I'm done. I'm walking away from it. I gave you my portal. I'm done. There has to be at least some involvement in there if there's a challenge or an issue.
Right.
I think the ability to have it, to show it, is there, and any other features to have it. It has to, like with everything, it can't be one or another. You can't be 100% constantly calling customers or whatever. You have to have some technology in there to buffer it. So I think on that topic, we both agree it has to be there. But to what extent is how you develop. And every customer might be different. So there might be, like we talked about, smaller ones that want to have more visibility, bigger ones that you're doing 1,000 loads a day, just want their system updated so they can get their KPI and move on. And then you have to just break apart why you were late on that one late, and then have that information for them and have it all set up. Different pieces. I think customers, like direct customers, have changed over time because they don't look for that update anymore of where my shipment is. To your point, I think that originally when Amazon first started doing the deliveries within 24 hours and 48 hours, everybody was kind of looking like, is it legit?
Oh,
Quickly.
I also
Now,
agree. No one really cares this much these days. Yeah.
Nobody. It's just like I ordered it. It says Tuesday. It's Wednesday. Where is it? Unless it's like a gift. It's going somewhere. It's a delivery for somebody. You have a more vested interest than you care
Actually,
more about it. So that's the only two, like you said, the only two pieces. You had
but that's
something
actually.
else. I was going to switch topics unless you.
Okay, yeah, I'll let you switch in a second. But that actually just really was a good thought. And then I guess I would put it out there for any service provider that is thinking about this portal. When was the last time you logged into your Amazon order portal that has details on everything till the end of time and you can check any? Yeah, exactly. Like super rare, super rare. And then my last total point on this, and it might segue. Yeah, I promise. And it might segue into something else. But this is where I think a lot of these technology providers are missing. And I might misquote this because it's my perception, but I'm not a big comic book head dude, so I might misquote this concept, but like everybody is building these bots and these systems and stuff like that to interact with the customer and to seemingly provide a better customer experience for them. But it's coming at the cost of less contact and leaving them maybe like feeling like I don't want to be managed by a system, right? But if you think of like someone like Tony Stark, right? Iron Man with Jarvis was there to help him, interacted with him, gave him the updates, gave him the information. He went to interact with the Avengers. He didn't say, hey, Jarvis, can you go work with all the other dudes and, come back and then let me know? So I think that that's where a lot of people are missing the boat, is that AI, agentic AI, and all of these things should be more viewed as your personal toolbox and assistant to empower you to make you even better, but you still directly work with your clients and not the system. So that's my final thought on that.
But he created Vision, which became the AI corporal, right?
Well, but Vision maybe is going to lead into our next thing. But Jarvis was his own. Jarvis is his own thing.
I agree. It's a tool, but I'm going to switch a little bit. That topic we'll come back to because I have something on that as well. Let's look at this one. I want you to listen to this and let me know what your take on it is. Oh, I don't know. Can you hear it, by the way?
No, but we'll read it.
Okay. I think reading it out loud or talking about it, basically, they booked a load and the price, I mean, they booked the load. It was supposed to be 20,000 pounds. They picked it up. It was 48,000 pounds. The question
Mhm.
is, the trucker asked for more money because it's 20,000 pounds more. The broker saying it's a full load. What difference does it make? I paid you for the truck, right? In this case, this is interesting because um, they're a flatbed carrier, and if you don't follow them,
Yeah.
they're actually it's a really cool content that they have. Um, I think it's a very common thing. What from your perspective, John, as a shipper, if you book the truck, does it matter if it's 5 pounds or 40,000 pounds? Should the price be the
uh,
same?
well, it depends. Now, I would say that I don't believe the vast majority of people adjust their FTL rates based on the actual weight and getting into the concept of like how much more wear and tear is load A versus load B on my
And
truck.
fuel
I think
burn.
it become there's fuel burned and stuff like that. But my point being is that I don't think most carriers are that sophisticated. Like I don't think they would change the price that much, if at all. A lot of the time, once you get into FTL and you're just saying, I want a full truck and I need it to go from point A to point B. I could be wrong. You probably see it more than I do if they're plugging it in. Um, but I would say that's what would matter. Like if I know that, for example, my carrier is actually giving me a lower FTL rate based on the weight because less wear and tear, less fuel burn, less whatever, like fine. But if they don't, then I don't think it should matter because, again, if I'm going to pay $5,000 for the load, whether it's a full trailer load of feathers or a full trailer load of bricks, and they're never going to change the price, then I don't like, and I say full load in terms of like either filling up that capacity or whatever. So it depends if they're changing the price or not. If they change
I
the price,
I'll tell
I
you
agree.
when you're speaking and you're negotiating, oftentimes if you give let's say if you go frozen to fresh, it makes a difference on the price. When you go heavy to light, it makes a difference of the price. Especially if you're going heavy, if you're saying really heavy and you have mountainous areas, like if you're going through the Appalachians,
Yeah.
they're going to be like, well, I need more because it's heavier on the truck. If you're going down the
Mhm.
Midwest, it doesn't tend to be as much of a deal, but definitely the temperature, if it's frozen to fresh, does make a difference. Carriers will refuse it if you don't give them that information, or they will get to the location like, you never told me it was frozen. I don't want to take this. Same as
Yeah.
if, hey, you never told me it was 40,000 pounds. You told me 20. It has happened where they're like, hey, I either A, I need more money, or B, this I can't do this load. This is too heavy. I'm not prepared to take that much weight. I'm not interested. So accuracy of information, I think, I know it does make a difference. Um, and
Oh, don't get me wrong. I think 100% the shipper is wrong for just thinking they could load the truck or whatever. Because at minimum, like even just on the health and safety side, right? Like, and if you're dealing with a larger brokerage or potentially even a larger asset based carrier, it's quite possible that they may send a more junior driver to do a lighter load that maybe is not as hard to drive than something that's a lot heavier and may require a little bit more experience and some skill to really feel comfortable and safe, for example, on the road about where they're going. So I think I don't think there's any excuse for it. um and yeah, I would expect, like, the vast majority of the time that someone would come back for a pricing charge, because I would agree with you that in my experience, what I always saw wasn't so much that there was a big difference on the weight up until a certain point. Because when I was in the food industry, it was tantamount to shipping water. So on that very high to the, very high side of the scale. And people would understand that, like, oh, that's really heavy and it's going to have a
very
wear and tear
close.
impact and would charge.
Yeah.
Like, a little bit in between. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you'd rarely have people having issues if you were shipping a bunch of pallets of like cheese and stuff, like finished cheeses and stuff, and like it shifted a little bit. But like people would definitely jump if it was like, oh no, it's 40,000 pound load versus, like sort of 25 or whatever, and just understanding really what it was. So I do think it matters. I don't think any shipper should ever be able to get away with giving incorrect information that way on the load, period.
I'm going to speed you along because we're running down on time. And we touched upon it in your previous comment. And also, there's a comment: a portal should be used for quick access for the shipment without taking away the human contact. I think it's a great point. Anyways, talk about your AI. I thought this was interesting as well. Mercedes chief of design says he'll be replaced by AI in the next 10 years. My successor will be a machine and much cheaper than my salary. I think that is the theme that a lot of people are running towards. And things like this is where I think, to your point, when it comes to technical pieces to make systems better for people is where it really matters. It shouldn't replace the conversation that you have with your customer as a bot, as a front-facing piece. It should be doing a lot of the back-end aspects of it. So when your earlier your comment is, hey, the bot should be talking to the customer. I don't think so. It should be the bot providing your customer service person the information, so they're very in touch with their customer, able to manage it a lot better and record the conversations and have them better as an interaction. Having a bot just to converse with the customer will really, I think, push away a lot of customers from that interaction. And I think you still need a lot of that human aspect touch.
Yeah, I no, but that's what I was saying. I agree that AI should be more like your own toolbox and not your solution. Yeah, look at all of these things. I agree that this is nuts. And I mean, you showed me Matt. By the way, guys, Matt's very good. Do you ever want to reach out to Matt about like what's the next thing? He sends me on the regular, like, look at this. Have you seen this? Like he says, have I seen this? He knows the answer is no. He's
No.
doing it just because he's like, look at how much better I am at finding stuff than you. But like
no, not at all.
no, but in all fairness, the stuff coming out of China now, like what's being publicly released, like Matt, you showed me a couple of these things. Like one was a really dramatic picture to video type AI. The other one was a much more, like they're saying the world's first real agent, like so agentic AI, like in a really crazy way. And yeah, so like apparently this AI was just from a picture, and then they played a song to it, and the bot is like completely doing the lip sync,
which is pretty good. I thought that.
Yeah.
So this is like, why is this relevant to logistics? Because this is very much how the world is moving towards. It's more about having less employees and being able to run a business with less people.
It's funny about that because like I don't disagree. Like I really don't disagree that that's what's going to happen. But it's funny too though, because I already think, right, and I've shared this with you. I've shared it posts and newsletters and whatever. But I already think that so much of logistics, especially more in the e-commerce side than in the B2B side, has gotten this like Shopify effect that I call it, which is like everything is just, oh, I have an app for that, so I must be good. And the concept that just because something is happening, that it's happening well, is wildly prevalent in e-commerce. And I think honestly, like there's going to be this weird thing. It's like when, if everybody has these agents, if everybody has these bots, if everybody is working from this same recycled and regurgitated, there's Manus or whatever, regurgitated kind of like content base or knowledge base, probably is even a better way to think about it, is like, do you actually think that you're going to be unique? Do you think that you're going to stand out? Do you think that your business, like what's your value proposition? You know what I mean?
No.
Like what's it going to be?
Well, and not only that, it's also a great equalizer to that aspect of well, because before technology was such a far-flung thing of people who had programmers and ideas, and you needed a massive team to bring your technology to fruition. Now, that has really closed the gap where there's tons of these nimble little companies coming up with great ideas that can code very quickly that are taking on these massive companies. So that, people like Shopify should be worried because they're being challenged, because anybody who has an idea can quickly develop their own Shopify page now by going, here's what Shopify looks like. I want the same effect, but I don't want to pay Shopify. I'm going to save 100 grand by not paying them. Here's a beautiful web design. I don't want to pay $100,000 for this web design. I want to do it myself. So build it for me. It's really closing that gap on technology aspect of it. We're still going to be weary how we use that technology, and still make sure that there is that connection with individuals. Because I think people won't want to be determined what they can or cannot buy by an algorithm, and I think that's always going to be the case. And you still need that human element. And that human element, I think, is going to be very crucial. But that person can be coached by AI.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like I said, I think it's going to be really interesting to see where things go and who and what and how people then just spin the next thing, right? Like I saw, the company Ridge, like Ridge Wallet, Amazon started, and now they're like a big company. Have you ever seen these guys?
Never heard of it.
Really? Oh wow. Okay. I check them out after. I'm sure you've seen the concept, but they do like this kind of like wallet thing. That said, like the guy, the CEO from there, who completely built his business himself, like nothing but a pure success story. He was saying that like it's the biggest change he's seen in the last 5 years is just how much all of these tools have blown away the ability, just tore down the moat around advertising, around content and ads, because he's like, everybody can do it now to a great quality relatively easily. So he's saying, even brand new brands now, like advertising, so to speak, is not a barrier, or not like the type of barrier it used to be. And I think a lot of these tools you're right. Like it used to be that you had great tools, you used to have this, and it was so hard to get. But like sooner or later, like when those are no longer barriers, what happens next, right? Like what's the next battleground?
Oh, and not to drag the topic because we're over time, but even look at the car development, right? All these little tools, these either someone comes up with something cool and then the car is incorporated. So backup cameras used to be something aftermarket that you added to your car. Now every car pretty much has a backup camera and everything. Dash cams used to be very much an aftermarket thing. Same thing. GPS used to be a very much aftermarket thing, and everything just started getting incorporated. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
With these tools, where people come up with either the company will have to follow these smaller tools and buy them, or these small tools will come up and these companies are like, oh, we need to catch up and bring it up. But it's going to become harder and harder for these mega corporations to keep up with all these little things that people want, because you can now customize everything and tailor make it specifically to yourself, and how you want to see it and how you want it done.
No, definitely. I agree. So you're right. We're way over time, but some Mondays they just like everything is going good. We've got lots of stuff going on. So what are you doing this week?
This week is March break for us, so I'm going
It
to
is,
try to remain sane for the whole week
Okay.
with a lot of distractions. But it's really a week of really prepping for the summer season. As we do a lot of temperature controlled stuff, things are gearing up from Christmas, and now we're coming into April, May, where a lot of product is going to start becoming available. Working through these tariffs, understanding what the new deputy or whatever interim prime minister is going to be taking.
I saw that. Yeah,
on.
Mark Carney last night. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of volatility in the marketplace right now. So there's a lot of questions of our inbound shipments. I've noticed in the last week, a lot of inbound from the US into Canada has really slowed down. A lot of domestic Canada has really sped up. So there's a lot of volatility happening in the marketplace. Really trying to just keep a pulse on it. And that's kind of what my take is. How about you, John? What's your take on this week?
Well, from a tariffs perspective, I'm going to jump into a little bit, doing a podcast on Wednesday or Thursday, I think the 13th. What is that? Thursday? Yeah, Thursday, with the team over at eShipper and with Hugo. I'm going to butcher his last name, like Pacula or something. And so, yeah, and he's been posting some really great stuff, and he's the CEO of like True Identity and stuff like that. It's really interesting kind of compliance, and really understands his stuff. So we're going to get into that and really talk about, hey, like what's life like in a world of tariffs and stuff like that, and like how do you treat it? I shared some thoughts last week about the best way I think people should think about tariffs. But it's really wild. And I know, probably talk a little bit about just the fact that, one of the things, to your point, even that's making it hard or uncertain, is this constant up, down, yo-yo, back, forth. It's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. And then you got these other countries announcing retaliatory tariffs, and are they on, are they off? So lots of crazy things, but that's going to be probably a little bit more B2C focused type stuff, not so much B2B, but never know where that conversation goes. That's the primary focus. And then wrapping up, I don't have as hectic of as a March break. Kids are traveling, so I'm a little bit more relaxed than you.
Well, on that note, thank you everybody for joining in and for all the comments that everybody has dropped. As always, join us next week for Wake Up and Deliver. And I hope you have a fantastic week.